this is my review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Okay, so in this episode, Josuke and Joseph wind up having a bonding experience, and it all has to do with a little girl that they find, and I'll explain why that's a big thing in a minute. So it starts off with everybody meeting at the cafe, where Jotaro reveals that he actually retrieved the bow and arrow from Akira's house, and reveals that Otoshi, in addition to having the bow and arrow, also racked up a jackpot of stolen goods. And he's currently in jail for a while, at least until they can fully investigate how much stuff he actually stole. And also remarks that he's most likely never actually going to try and flee prison. And even if he could, his stand is kind of scattered to the wind and completely broken and damaged. So it's not like he'd be much of a threat even if he got out of prison. So, and he's completely shit scared of Jotaro, so he's probably not going to go anywhere anytime soon. And when Koichi asks Jotaro what he's going to do with it, he remarks that he's going to give it to the Speedwagon Foundation so they can analyze it and figure out what exactly it is and how it's connected to the stands, and that the research into it may in fact enable them to learn more about how stands and stand users actually work, which is an interesting concept, and I'm assuming that's eventually going to be a plot thread that's going to be opened up again. But for now, it's kind of just open and shut. He's going to mail it to the Speedwagon Foundation, who are going to analyze it and see why it's able to create stand users. So, yeah, for the time being, it's just kind of out of the story for now. And Josuke even remarks that himself, and Koichi even remarks that he's happy it didn't wind up being such a big thing. But as they're discussing all of that, Joseph is actually sitting at another table drinking a coffee, and when he asks the waitress for another, he drops his cup, which Josuke immediately grabs before it hits the ground, and claims that he took his eyes away for a second, and Joseph is already spacing out and dropping things. At which point Koichi points out that they actually have a bus to catch, and Josuke reluctantly leaves with his father. So, yeah, this is where the adventure actually begins. So, first and foremost, he makes sure that his mom isn't going anywhere anytime soon, because he wants, at the very least, for Joseph to see his mom, although he doesn't explain the details to her, and he just tells Tomoko, he just asks Tomoko if she's going to be home. She said yes, and then he immediately hangs up once he has a confirmation. And while he's doing that, he notices that Joseph actually wandered away and catches up to him. And it's revealed that he just kind of wandered over to the bus station, and that's what happened. And that's just what he was doing. He waited till Josuke was done with his phone call, and then wandered over to the bus station. And that's really all that happened. So, and after clearing up that misunderstanding, Josuke tells them what they're doing. They're going to be taking the bus to his house. Josuke and Joseph are going to basically reconnect Joseph with his mom, but from a distance, because he realizes that his mom is most likely going to be upset if she suddenly sees Joseph show up again. Which we know isn't the case, but Josuke doesn't know that. He wasn't around when Jotaro showed up, and Tomoko immediately confessed her feelings for Joseph. So, yeah, he doesn't know that. We as the audience know that, but Josuke wasn't around for that, so he has no idea what her reaction will be. We know exactly what her reaction would be, but we never actually see that interaction in this episode. But in any case, he also after establishing that ground rule, he also points out that he's not going to refer to Joseph as Dad, pointing out that he feels it's kind of weird that he would be calling somebody he literally just met Dad. He doesn't feel comfortable with that, so he's going to be calling him by Mr. Joestar, which is fair. He only just met his dad. He doesn't know anything about him. He isn't even entirely sure how he wound up being related to him. So as far as he's concerned, he's just going to call him Mr. Joestar, and that's going to be the end of it. But in any case, as he's thinking things over in his head about everything, and how he's not entirely sure about anything about his dad, and not entirely sure what kind of person he is. He looks over to discover that his father has actually gotten onto a train going for Hokkaido, and quickly realizes that he needs to catch up with the bus pretty quickly, and he does. And Joseph even remarks that he's a little impressed that Josuke was able to keep up with a bus that was about to go on the interstate. But in any case, Josuke is a bit incapacitated and yells at Joseph for basically wandering off on him and almost going to Hokkaido, and wondering if letting him go to Hokkaido was in fact the best idea. And as Josuke is saying that, Joseph suddenly feels a tug on his pant leg. It looks down but doesn't see anything. But begins to suspect that there may be a stand user nearby. And sure enough, he, again confirming his suspicion, there are now handprints and crawl prints in the dirt, which eventually winds up going to the sidewalk. And Joseph notably points all of this out to Josuke, who initially doesn't believe him. However, when he saves the stand user, or at least a baby affected by a stand from a rabid dog, and chases it off, Josuke finally believes him, and is a little bit curious as to why an enemy stand user would turn a baby invisible. But then Joseph deposits a much more likely theory that that the baby is in fact the stand user. And yeah, he remarks that it's likely that the baby it's considering the fact that the baby is just kind of on the side of the highway and isn't really with any sort of parental figure. Joseph concludes that it's most likely that the baby was lost because of its stand abilities, and the mother is looking for it and doesn't know where it is. And sure enough, is able to conclude that the baby is in fact a girl, through reasons that Josuke immediately assaults him over because there's a very obvious way of him being able to tell, but it's inappropriate. But in any case, as Josuke is chasing after Joseph with the baby in hand, the baby poops in Joseph's hand, and he doesn't know it at first because it's invisible, but he eventually smells it and also realizes that he scratched his beard with that hand. And they realize that they actually need to go get diapers, baby clothes, and all the other anemones that you need to take care of a baby. So they go back to Morio to actually buy some baby equipment, and they do a compromise. Josuke can't go in because rumors will quickly spread that he got a girl pregnant, and he doesn't want that. And Joseph doesn't have any money that's Japanese currency, so basically Josuke lends Joseph his card and tells him to go in and buy the absolute necessities, but points out that he shouldn't rack up too huge a bill because he's kind of been saving up, and he doesn't want to just completely lose all of his money. And Joseph definitely takes that into consideration, but he almost immediately goes back on it after he realizes upon going into the store that there's just there's so many options for basically everything. There are clothes, diapers, bottles, the tops for the bottles, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And Joseph, because he's become completely overwhelmed by how many choices there are, he just opts to buy all of them, and it winds up costing Josuke 130,000 yen, which he doesn't find out until much later. I'll get to that. But in any case, he leaves with his stroller full of baby stuff, and Josuke is just happy to get out of there because he starts seeing some girls from his class and realizes he can't stay there or he'll be caught with a baby, and that could be a problem. But eventually Joseph comes back and they escape to the park, and go to give the baby some actual clothes. and also a face. So Joseph planned ahead and realized that they would need to be able to see her. So he uses some makeup to basically give her a face. And Josuke compliments him and points out that the baby actually looks kind of cute. So Joseph kind of goes a little bit overboard, and Josuke realizes that complimenting him might have been a bad idea. But in any case, the baby now, it looks like this. I'll show a picture now, but basically this is what the baby looks like with its makeup on. And Josuke is happy that they can actually see the baby now, and Joseph realizes that it'll make it a lot easier to actually see them, to actually track it, because now they can actually see its face, which means they can now show it to her mother, and her mother will be able to find it. So yeah, but Joseph begins to remark that maybe he didn't put on too much because it's already starting to come off. But both of them realize too late that that's not what's happening. As it turns out, in addition to being able to turn the baby invisible, the baby's stand also turns anything within a certain radius invisible as well, which is helpful, which I guess would be helpful, but is kind of hindered by the fact that she's a baby and she kind of can't control her stand abilities yet. So, and sure enough, Joseph, who was holding the baby, actually has his hands turned invisible, and Josuke immediately panics and has Joseph put the baby down almost immediately. So Joseph puts it in the stroller, which partially turns invisible, and sure enough, also Joseph's hands don't come back. So Josuke and Joseph begin to theorize about why the stand seems to be working the way it is. And Joseph posits that it's most likely because of stress, and that because she's being handled by complete and total strangers who she doesn't really trust. She's starting to lash out when, because she has a stand, it's causing anything nearby to turn invisible and become absorbed by her stand, more or less. So yeah, and as they're discussing that, a passerby actually sees the stroller and chucks a cigarette at it. And Joseph immediately sees this and grabs it, but because he did that, he accidentally bumps into the stroller, which causes it to start careening out down the nearby hill and toward the nearby river. And Josuke immediately chases after it and tells Joseph to stop spacing out, and starts chasing it. And as he's chasing it, it starts basically her stand just starts deleting parts of the environment around her. And the radius is getting bigger and bigger as she gets more stressed, and Josuke realizes that Joseph was right. But eventually he chases it to the river, and the baby falls in. So, and Josuke has no way of actually finding her because it's completely clear water. And Joseph tries to help, but Josuke dismisses him, mainly because he's upset that Joseph managed to lose a baby, and also begins to think to himself, how in the hell this man could even remotely be his father because of how irresponsible he is. And tells Joseph to just leave him alone and let him handle it. And with that, Josuke climbs into the river and begins searching for the baby, but can't actually find it, and is trying to reach out and find it, and doesn't really care if he turns invisible as long as he finds it. That's his primary goal. He's just concerned of finding it before it drowns in the river, and that's kind of important because babies can't in fact swim. However, Joseph, despite Josuke's constant telling him not to, actually decides to do something pretty risky, which is and sure enough he explains first and foremost that he's about to die, that he might die in a few seconds, and if he does, to send his regards to his mother. And sure enough, pulls out a knife and slits his own wrist, which causes Joseph to pass out. Yes, almost slightly. He's starting to die basically because he's starting to bleed out. But because he did that, he actually adds color to the water, which enables Josuke to find the baby. And Josuke is impressed by his father, but in this moment, he's impressed by the fact that Joseph was able to quickly use his head to think of a solution, and even went a step above and beyond for somebody he barely knew. and especially for a kid that wasn't even his own. And quickly realizes that he most likely is his father because Josuke would definitely have done the same thing. And sure enough, Josuke retrieves the baby using his stand, and is implied to have healed up Joseph in the process. And then they return home, and Joseph shows Jotaro the baby, and it's a happy ending except for the bill that I mentioned, which Josuke finds and immediately goes ballistic over because he told Joseph to only spend a little bit, and Joseph spends basically all of it for the sheer fact that he didn't really know any of the options. He didn't really know what he was supposed to buy, and just bought everything, which came back to bite Josuke, who had been saving up for some things that he wanted, and now he can't. So yeah, happy ending, I guess. The main point of this arc is that it's actually supposed to be a bonding exercise between Joseph and Josuke, who up to this point have had limited interactions. They basically only really interacted once at the end of the last episode. So this episode was meant to give the two some time to actually grow together and for them to try and get to know each other and work together to basically determine who they are. They're basically trying to figure out who each other is and what kind of person their father and son are, respectively. So, and yeah, this episode does that, and the baby wound up being a perfect example of this because they had to work together to take care of a baby. It put them in a position where they saw sides of each other that they didn't really know before. So yeah, Josuke saw what kind of man his father was, and that he's, while a little bit old and possibly a little senile, maybe has Alzheimer's. He's definitely good with kids. He's good with kids, and he's definitely willing to put his life on the line if it means saving somebody else. So Josuke's opinion of his father is starting to turn around. Not a lot. That bill that he found at the end of the episode might have thrown a wrench or two into that, but for the most part, it's this episode just shows them growing closer together, and that's really all the episode is. So that's my review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks, and I'm going to be saying thanks. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!